Welcome to episode 420 of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. We're coming off the heels of the latest edition of the Hell is Real Derby. And if you watch the match, you know it only took 6 minutes for Kevin Denkey to introduce himself to the crowd at Columbus, which got many of us in Cincinnati pretty hyped and pretty excited about how this game was going to go. But if you're familiar with the Hell is Real Derby, you know there's no space to sit comfortably on a lead because Columbus always comes roaring back to pull out the draw or the win in Columbus. Welcome to episode 420 of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. As I mentioned earlier, I'm here with a great cast. There's three of us tonight. We're going to continue on that trend with three hosts on the show. Justin Blair is with us tonight. Justin, welcome back. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm still like a little bit in a fog. I stayed up late last night after that amazing Valhalla FC versus Northern Kentucky Nitro match that went. It's a cup match that went to the final minutes of the match. I think it was 85th minute goal to put them ahead. Valhalla was playing a man down the entire match. It was nuts.
When did they get the red? When did they get the guy sent off?
I think it was like the 38th minute, and they were down a goal, and they won 3-1. So,
oh man,
victory or Valhalla, as Anders Michelson likes to say.
Oh man, well, we're looking forward to jumping into the game tonight that happened up in Columbus, talking more about that and what's happening around Cincinnati and some of the U.S. men's national team talk maybe later in the show. We've got Coach on as always to talk about it all. How are you doing, Coach?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I thought about sitting this one out because how do you take anything tactically out of a match where you're just clinging on by your fingertips for, not just 45 minutes. It really looked like pretty much, after that 6-minute goal was nothing but hold on to your seats, friends. So I am still working the glutes out after all of the bun puckering, but I was doing last night or Saturday.
Well, it seems that maybe that is FC Cincinnati's tactic. Let's score a goal and then let's just hold on for dear life. Like all tactics go out the window. Let's pack it in and let's hold them off. Thank goodness for Roman Celentano in this match, which we've already seen here in the chat. He's getting a lot of shouts for best. So we'll talk about him as we go. Thank you we got to thank our sponsor, Apollo Home, before we get too far into the show. Apollo Home says, it's hell is real this week, and things heated up on the pitch. They're heating up in Cincinnati. And as the heat turns up in both the weather and upcoming derby, which we just played, keep your house cool with a $25 HVAC cooling tune-up from Apollo Home. Also, just for CST listeners, you've heard this week after week, Apollo Home is offering a $1,100 off of a new AC unit. And that's just for CST listeners. So that's CST's gift to you. Give Apollo a call, send them a text, or schedule online at apollohome.com. Gentlemen, we have some best and worst in the chat already, but I want to hear from you before we throw these up on the screen. Coach, I'll let you kick us off.
Yeah, my best, I'm going to get granular here because there was a moment in the 56th minute where FCC turned the ball over and Crew was out in transition, but Miles Robinson made like a 10-yard, hit the nitro thrusters burst, like Fast and the Furious, caught the player in transition, won the ball, and then another Crew player came behind him to nick it off Miles, and Miles did this cute little rollover and push move and just like burnt that defender, and then of course they passed it forward and turned it over right away because it was the second half and that's what they did. But that move from Miles, I was just like, I did not know he had that in his locker. That was awesome. And in reality, he had a few moments with that little burst. Like he is not just straight line fast, but he can make up 10 yards like nobody. So that moment in particular, but Miles in general. My worst is, when I coached college, I would lose my temper a lot. And my college players will be like, Coach, you have no chill, just no chill. And my worst is FCC having no chill. Not because they were angry, but because as soon as things started to go bad, you could tell they were panicking. It was epic levels of panicking. There was Kevin Denkey trying to dribble the entire crew team every time he touched the ball. There was Anunga thinking, I can solve this. I'll hit a full volley from 45 yards that he sliced almost out from a throw. There was Evander passing it to nobody. I don't know if he thought the official was a FCC player because he's wearing kind of blue or what, but he passed the ball. One of the worst passes I've ever seen in a professional soccer match. FCC just had no chill.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember there was a shot just before Anunga's, 40-yard half volley, whatever he did, that went wide. And then the commentators, when he hit that, they were like, well, that one was about 15 yards wider than the last one. It was rough, man. We'll talk about that because it did the no chill for sure. Like everybody panicked, everybody dribbled into the end line, into defenders, and then just ran out of space, didn't know what to do. Good shout there. Justin, your best and worst.
My best was definitely Roman Celentano's performance. Roman definitely kept us in this match. Made a couple incredible saves where he was diving for the ball, quick reactions. Conceded the penalty kick, but that's a low probability of a stop. My worst is probably the situation, and maybe I'm alone in this, but I would have preferred to have Luka Orishano play up top when they made those rotations. I think it was the later in the match, I think 65th minute, something like that. Nunga came on and they put Kubo up top, and then they decided to keep Orishano back at right back. I didn't like that at all. I would have much rather seen Kubo be the one fall back and Orishano play up top, given the minutes he's played at that position.
Yeah. Do you think that, I wonder if that has to do with potential, meaning that Orishano has the potential to create more chances out there than maybe Kubo does, even though he dribbles into pressure a lot. And I just wonder if that was a move there on that side to do that, where Kubo can run up top pretty freely with, whether it's Denkey or Kai Kamara up top, he can run pretty freely and is going to get rid of the ball and maybe not drop into, dribble into pressure too much. Maybe he'll lose the ball before he gets into that pressure because he's Yuya Kubo. I'm going to throw a couple up here on the screen. Shauna Hendricks Rifle says best is Roman. Agrees with us. Worst is what happened to the midfield. Absolutely. Great question. We'll talk about that as the show goes on. Jose says his best is Roman was the man. Worst was midfield seemed to disappear in the second half. Look at this. This is a common theme here. Rupesh, his best was Roman. His worst was no control of the ball. Are you catching a theme? Like this, these are all consistent. None of them are talking behind the scenes. They're all just dropping them in here. I think there's a consistent theme with that midfield that we'll talk about. My best was Sergio Santos in this match. Like, he wasn't the all-star player out there, but he was a guy, we talk about his work rate. He was working defensively. He was working offensively. It seems that he's developing a partnership with Kevin Denkey. When those two start together, they seem to play well together for at least a portion of the match until one gets tired or one gets, frustrated and starts dropping in to get the ball a little bit more. I thought he worked hard at both ends. His passing has looked really good. I haven't seen the stats. I'm going by the eye test. It seems that he's passing better, and maybe he's getting stronger with age, meaning he was the guy last year and the year before we were talking about he's made of glass. He comes in for 2 or 3 minutes. He's fast. He gets knocked down once, and then he's on the ground for a while. The guy, it looks like he's put on some muscle. He's still got the speed. He's stronger, and he's not staying down as much when he gets hit. So kudos to Sergio Santos is my best for this week. My worst is Cincinnati's inability, or maybe it's their unwillingness to finish a match. Like we talked a couple seasons ago, one of my favorite things the commentators said was Cincinnati finds a way. They always find a way. And Boston and I talked about that numerous times that season. Cincinnati finds a way, but then they almost lose their way every match this season. So that's one of that's a consistent worst of mine. We have a few more up here. I think from Nicholas says his best aside from Roman was Obina was back. I think he played a pretty good match for most of it. Ananga has been great, but Obi's been so much more solid on the ball. Worse the entire second half of our offense. And absolutely, Nick, Nicholas. We'll talk about that as we go. Guys, let's get into this match a little bit more. It looked like, Cincinnati rolled out Mark's best. You have to go back and watch the show to see that one. The lineup looked strong. Cincinnati looked like they rolled out a pretty strong lineup. We mentioned Santos starting up top with Denkey. We had Orishano out there. We had probably, I would say, Noonan's best lineup this season. Do you agree or disagree with that to start the game?
I had no problems with the starting lineup. I thought that was the healthiest we've been the entire season. For me, I was just a bit surprised on, like, I just go back to the Orishano thing. I think it's wild. I know that you celebrated Santos's play, but having Orishano up there up top makes me feel comfortable. I mean, it's a situation where we're able to utilize that. It's not been great. It's not been leading to results, but there's at least some chemistry up top between the three of those players, and you saw it link up. And to his credit, Santos was part of that goal scoring opportunity, but you saw it in that goal scoring opportunity, right? Orishano being able to dribble out, pass, not a pass, shot. Who knows what Vander's flick was there,
right?
But it was nice to be able to see the kind of that knowing of where each other are in space, and that's where I would have liked to see Orishano. I would have much rather had DeAndre Yedlin play the first half, kind of sit on it a little bit, and then try to, when you're sitting in bunkering defensively, then I would have made those kind of adjustments in the back line.
Coach, DeAndre Yedlin starting in the first half. Do you agree with that? What do you think?
Oh, sorry. I'm getting some indigestion thinking about that. Hold on, guys. Man, DeAndre Yedlin is, I've talked about it ad nauseum on this show. Like, he is a black hole on the right-hand side going forward. And I get totally that he offers a certain amount of defensive solidity, but you know where most of the Crew chances came down? The other side of the pitch. Orishano's defensive frailties were accounted for. Noonan shifted the back line, and Nick Hagglund basically spent most of his time playing right back. And that's where I think the question that I have about the lineup and what the strongest lineup is especially in a system where you're going to have the right center back shifting and playing in 1v1 defense a lot, because you have Orishano ahead of him playing up the pitch more. Is Nick Hagglund the guy you want there? Or do you either want to bring in Teenage Hadeb, because then Miles Robinson, and I already talked about him, can be over there behind Orishano on the right? Or do you want to bring in a guy like Flores, who, for his youth and naivety, he's a lot faster than Nick Hagglund. Now, that said, I thought Nick played pretty well. I thought Nick's biggest problem was in possession, actually, not out of possession. So maybe it's a non-issue. But I can't do DeAndre Yedlin as a right wing back anymore. I'm all about, if Noonan wants to pull a center back out, maybe Nick Hagglund again, and have Yedlin play right fullback and play in a back four. I'm all about that. Or even as a center back, kind of like we saw Steven Moreira play, pushing a little bit into the attack. I think that'd be great. But as a wing back, I think that is past him.
Yeah, let's talk about that goal for a moment, because Orishano was highly, highly involved in that from the start. There was a pass to the left winger of Columbus. I'm forgetting who that was. He broke off. He played hard defense. He got stuck in, won the ball, passed it across. The ball was lost again. Columbus took possession. They passed it around. The ball came back up to the top. Orishano, still on the defensive side of the ball, steps up, makes a little cheeky touch. I think he tried to do it to himself, to pass around the player, get around him. Santos steps in, he makes it a beautiful give and go, and Orishano streaks down the right side of the field. Santos is keeping up, even gets ahead of him, making a run. Denkey's running towards the far post, and Orishano runs straight to the end line. Makes a beautiful play on the ball on the defensive side, beats his man, gets to the end line, and then runs out of space. Doesn't know what to do. Sends kind of a hope and a prayer cross across that Santos jumps for, gets in Schulte's way maybe a little bit. Schulte makes a terrible play on the ball. Evander does his little bicycle assist. Was he shooting? Was he not? We talked about that just a moment ago. And Denkey's there to finish. Had it not been for a poor play by Schulte, that goal never happens because Orishano played so well at the defensive side of the ball, and he got up forward and then ran out of space and didn't know what to do. And it seems like that is something that's happening more and more consistently with Orishano. I love that he's playing tough on the defensive side, at least in this match. I thought he did, but he's still making the same mistakes up front. And I think part of that is, let me see, Nicholas, I think, alluded to it. Yeah, on the right side, he says on the right side, Orishano, if he doesn't cut in at the top of the box, he's useless because he can't cross with his right foot. And I think that's part of it. Defenses are playing him to make him go to his right, and he struggles to know what to do. Now,
and that's part of why he's beating people to their right.
Absolutely.
Right? They're giving him the right. I know there was a play earlier this year where he was able to turn that up and go straight down the end line into the box. But they're just giving him that ability.
Mm-hmm. And he has, to be fair, he's gotten some great crosses off, cutting back from there. The Denkey spectacular bicycle kick came from that side when he cut a defender back. His cross to Santos came because he cut the ball back. But again, it was a hopeful pass. So all that to say, Orishano made a great play on the ball and then ran out of space and almost ruined everything, all the work that he had done on the defensive side of the ball. So his play to me was so up and down this match, literally up and down the field on this match. Coach, what do you think about, as we zero in on Orishano just for a second, because we're talking about it, what did you think of his play in this match?
Yeah, so I think that defensively, he showed his defensive frailties when he got matched up 1v1. In fact, the Columbus penalty kick came from Orishano chasing a ball down into the corner, and then Max Arston just cut the ball, like a simple across his body cut, and Orishano might have just just sat out, just like went and sat down by the corner flag because he missed so badly. And then Arston passed it into Diego Rossi, and the rest is history there. So he has those frailties, which you take from a guy who's a converted winger. You're okay with that if he is making bones on the offensive side of the pitch. Right. And right now, I see a kid who had a lot of success last season with some pretty good luck, like it's skill to be able to hit a 70-yard shot and have it go in, but it's luck that the goalkeeper is ever out of position to begin with, and the ball's sitting right there, and all the things that have to come into play. So he had success last year with a little bit of luck, and now he hasn't had any goals, and he's starting to press. And I think the whole right foot, left foot thing, I think that's overblown. I think he's taken a space on the right, which is what you want him to do. When he starts refusing to do that, then it's troublesome. Right now, he gets to the right, and he can pass a ball with his right foot. In fact, I think he had an assist with a right foot a couple games ago, one of his first assists of the season, where he got on the right and made, and it wasn't a great cross, but he got, like, defenses can't just be like, oh, you don't have a right foot, I'm going to let you have it. They have to at least push you to your right foot, but then still play defensively. And so as long as he has control of the ball, I'm okay. But what he needs to do is understand that if he gives the ball up, he can get it back. Right now, when he has the ball and he's in the open field, he has the look of that player that is like when you're coaching U10s and your best player is like, I'm not going to pass the ball to him because it's never coming back to me. So it just dribbles forever, right? And I think if his teammates and his coaches can get in his head and be like, man, Luka, give the ball up and we will get it back to you in a more dangerous spot, his life will get better for it.
I do think that's what happened a lot with Lucho last year, right? He trusted Lucho, gave the ball up, he got into space, and he scored a lot more goals. It doesn't look like he's trusting the guys in front of him this year, or maybe he's trying to live up to the hype that he brought last season. Maybe that's part of what it is. He's putting pressure on himself. We could talk about Orishano all day. I don't want to. This game wasn't about him. It looked like Cincinnati got a lot of corners in the first half. They looked much better on corners offensively, with Evander swinging a ball in. And to be fair, the commentators talked about, didn't really have a chance. There was no one in the area, but that ball had some curve on it enough that Schulte had to make a crazy save, or that ball's going in the back post, right? So the service on that one, was he going for goal? Absolutely. I think he was. The service coming the other way, we're getting some guys in. Kai Kamara, I think, is going to play a big part of that late in games. Defensively, not so much, Coach, on the defensive side of the corners. What'd you see?
Man, I would have to imagine that whichever of those coaches, I think it might be Dom Kinnear, that's in charge of set pieces, is going to be furious with his team defensively because 3 times Columbus set up to take a short corner, and you have a guy at the near post. Most of the time it was Buka, and then you have another guy who's marking that player, who is going for the short corner, because you have to play 2v2 there. You have the kicker and the guy checking for the short corner. So you have to have 2 players. But 3 times those guys didn't get on the same page and didn't get out quickly enough, and Columbus played the short corner and was able to work decent chances. One of those was the Jason Russell Rowe header where he just misses the header. Those, and it's not like right off of the corner kick, so it doesn't show up like, oh, it was a corner kick chance, because it was a pass and then maybe a dribble and then a cross. But it's all about just those short corner defenders not getting out quickly enough, which is just mentality. That's not, man, I lost my marker, or I got out jumped or anything. It's literally just being tuned in and understanding what the opponent's going to do and going after it.
Forgive me if I'm wrong, but didn't that happen with Lorenzo Insigne as well against Toronto in the midweek? I could have sworn there was several times where Insigne was able to play, because it was Bernardeschi that was playing the cross, or somebody else playing the cross, the corner, and like Lorenzo Insigne was just at the top corner of the 18, like, oh, hey, no one wants to guard me here? Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, the defensively, certainly balls in the air we've gotten better at, with Haglund in there, with Miazga back there. It's the simple things on the short corners, and the midfielders and the wingers that may have to pick up those balls, not being aware, not getting there quick enough. And so again, going back to the worst, our midfield play, link up play moving forward, but even awareness on some of those plays may have been lacking in this game. Justin, Kevin Denkey, to me, eye test to me, like, I haven't dug into the stats. I just watched the game this afternoon, actually, because I was driving home from Indianapolis while they were playing the other night. The eye test to me looked like he was incredibly active this match, more than I've seen him in a while, getting on the ball, getting more touches, more dribbles, and sometimes he ran into some trouble dribbling the ball. What'd you see in his play this game that maybe we haven't seen in previous matches?
Yeah, it's difficult to say, but I agree with you. I think that Denkey was a lot more livelier on the pitch, and sometimes that's, I know it's a cliche thing, and yeah, you can gag right now, but sometimes you play to your competition, right? Columbus is inviting people to do this crazy blitzing style of play, right? That everyone on the pitch is a striker in their minds, right? And so when you're on the other side, you're giving yourself lots of opportunities to get out in space, especially when you're having the difficulties that we were just progressing the ball through the midfield. You're going to try to drop back, get the ball yourself, and try to drive, right? Because if you're struggling to get the ball, you're not getting that service. Sometimes you create that own service, but I think it was all over the place, man. And there was at one time he was standing right at the top of the 18. I was like, oh, maybe not where you want $16 million striker standing right
defensively,
there.
top of the 18.
The top of the 18. And that was in the run of play. It wasn't from a set piece or anything like that. It was like, okay, he's really, really trying to cover ground tonight. So I like it though. It obviously you're not going to get results all the time like you saw in Toronto, where he dribbles on 6 players and finds some space and puts it in the net. But yeah, I like what I'm saying. This is what Kevin Denkey is, and I think we're starting to see a little bit of that blossoming from that weird start of the season where we were playing a game every 10 minutes.
Yeah,
you're starting to see that comfortability with Pat Noonan in the system.
Coach, is this Kevin Denkey working, getting comfortable with this team, the tactics, the flow of the game, or is this Kevin Denkey getting frustrated and needing more touches on the ball, so he's dropping in to receive it more? What do you think?
I don't think it's either. I think it's Kevin Denkey getting confident, and so when he has the ball, He's got a little flair to him. He's willing to take players on, which you see the good of in a game like Toronto, where he works his own shot and scores. There was a moment where he danced around Max Arfston like 3 times and then passed the ball off, and it looked really good. And even the announcers are like, man, he can use both feet. Like, we're kind of gushing over him. But then you have moments where in transition, instead of passing the ball to Buka, who's wide open, he dribbles it right towards Buka. Buka stops. Kevin Denkey goes past him and lets the ball goes out of bounds, and then looks at Buka like, why didn't you move to get open for me? Which, Buka could have made a run, but it's like at that point, it's a little bit like the Lucho Costa syndrome. Like, when he's dribbling into your space, like, what do? You don't know where to go necessarily. So I think that I said it's neither. It's really a little bit of everything, right? He is definitely putting in the work. He's definitely dropping deep defensively, which I think against Columbus you have to do. And then when he has the ball, sometimes he's trying to do a bit too much. And so let's hope that kind of comes back to the middle.
Yeah. I think you're talking about it. The 60th minute, I believe, he was dribbling toward Buka, and Buka just kind of stopped and looked at him. What are you going to do? And then he made a pass, or he lost the dribble or something. And you're right, he was in the middle of the field, and it went all the way out to the end line. Because no one was there, no one made the run, and they both looked at each other like, "What are you doing?" Right? So there's a little frustration. It's a common thing where I see in a lot of sports, right? I see it. Most recently, my oldest son plays volleyball, and things are going well for them, right? They're winning the first set, then they go down in the second set, and everybody loses their mind and thinks they have to do a little bit more. Everybody has to work harder, and so now they're getting in each other's way. They're running into each other. Balls are dropping when they shouldn't drop, because it's just how it is. And I see Cincinnati doing that late in games now. So maybe that is Kevin Denkey dropping in. It's Orishano trying to create a shot for himself. It's Buka, it's people just taking shots when they shouldn't be shooting the ball. We talked about Anunga earlier, right? It's everybody's trying to do that one extra thing that's going to win the game, that's actually causing most of the issues. And I think that's what we saw in the second half, as the midfield kind of disappeared. Some of them would try and do something extra, but it would leave the rest of them, I don't know where you're going. I don't know what you're doing. And there would be a turnover of the ball, and Columbus would come back right down Cincinnati's throat. Let's talk about Miazga for a second. He's been back on the pitch. He's been starting. His leadership we've talked about in the past. They've missed that. What are you seeing in Miazga? Because I think he's played with different right side defenders, left side defenders. You've got a young guy like Flores coming in. Is Miazga getting back to his best, or was we still seeing a shadow of who he is?
I think he read the game really well. Yeah, Justin, I want to let you talk about Matt for a second, because I just want to say that I thought he read the game really well. So, got some blocks in. But what do you think, Justin?
I was going to say more of the physical aspect of it. I think we're seeing Matt at his best. I know he came up with a hammy the previous match, right? Mm-hmm. That was a bit of a scare going into Hell Israel. But I think the physical Matt is there, right? And that was something that I don't know how true it was or what, but there was some wondering of whether or not this injury may have affected Matt Miazga mentally, right? And it's good to see him putting out his body out there like he's been doing, and getting back to that same physical Matt, and sometimes, occasionally talking to the refs.
Yeah, and Cliff Adams saying some seriously incredible interceptions and blocks is what I was talking about with the game reading. Like, the number of times that Columbus thought that they were down that channel in behind Hagelin, and Miazga slid over to the right and blocked a cross or made a tackle. I just thought he had a really good game in that regard.
Yeah, there was a moment where it may be the same one you're just talking about there, Coach, where Hagelin gets beat. It's late in the game. Miazga slides, makes a save. And in previous games, I've seen Celentano walk over to whoever that was, tap him on the shoulder, give him a hug. Great job. But Miazga gets up from that slide and screams at his defenders that he should not have had to make that play. And he's absolutely right. So seeing a guy that is willing to put his body on the line, to sacrifice, even after the injury that he had, but also the leadership to get up and say, guys, get it together. I should not have to be making all these saves. So it's good to see him out there for sure, making the plays that he's making. anything with you had mentioned Hagland, or is he the guy, coach, that we need in that, right center back position? Do we give a guy like Flores a chance moving forward? In this 5-back system, do we ever shift to a 4-back system? What are you? I know you appreciate the 4-back system, especially with the lineup that we have, but the partnerships that are developing with Miazga, what are you seeing? Is Flores, has he had enough time to be that right center back with Miazga going forward?
I think Flores still makes too many mistakes. Honestly, I think he's a good option. He's a great young player, young kid to get in there at times and for some spot starts, but I don't think he's the answer. And I think you can't discount how important it is to have a back line of 3 native English speakers, when you have Hagland and Robinson there. The thing that always drives me nuts is I can't stand getting a little bit worse at 2 positions as opposed to just taking all my, if you're going to get 10% worse, I'd rather get 10% at 1 position rather than 5% worse at 2 positions. And when you bring Hagland in at right center back and slide Miles to the left, I think you're 5% on the worse on the right and on the left, because Miles is such a good player. And he is a right-footed defender. He's a right side, and he can play. He's a right-sided player who can play on the left. And so in my mind, you brought in Hadeb for a reason. You have him on the roster, and maybe it's a health thing. He's still working his way back, but he's the one that I would say, do I think he's better than Hagland? No, I don't. But I think that it allows Miles to play in his best position. So I wouldn't mind seeing that look, although I would still say 4-back. If you're going to have Obi on the field, I don't think you need 3 center backs out there anyway, so.
Yeah, always a bit of a destroyer back there. Hey, we're going to move into talking tactics here in just a moment. We want to thank our second half of the show sponsor, Beyond Exercise. They are a local physical therapy and fitness business that helps people stay active and injury-free. In fact, they've helped some of our local MLS, MLS Next, and FCC Academy players with their health and performance needs. Check out their suite of services at Go Beyond Exercise. Now, Coach, as we move into this segment of talking tactics, I know we talked before the show about what tactics can we talk about that Cincinnati rolled out that we haven't talked about in this match. So on that note, I pass it to you, my friend, to roll out talking tactics.
All right, so here's the thing. Both teams only had a day or so to prepare for this match. So how come it looked like Columbus was so much better prepared than FC Cincinnati? The reason is Columbus has a defined style of play that they play no matter who the opponent is. And what they do offensively is they almost shift into like a stopper sweeper formation. Their center back stays deep and in the middle of the field, and their right center back and left center back push up the field and usually are higher up the field than even their defensive center midfielders. So the only way that you can beat that is if you can get in transition quickly and get out behind those players, because they push so many bodies forward. And teams that have hurt the Crew consistently have done that. They've played in transition. FC Cincinnati, on the other hand, is always kind of tweaking. We've talked about it on this very segment. Evander drops deep some games and wide to the right and push the wing backs higher when they're having trouble advancing the ball. And when should they play longer a little more often? And they're always changing things. And I think it's because Pat Noonan likes to let his players figure things out, which that can be good down the season if they get on the same page and they figure things out quicker and together. But right now, and maybe for most of the season even, it takes teams 2 or 3 years playing together before that really clicks. So what you see right now is you see FC Cincinnati trying to beat Crew by possessing the ball and building out of the back. And they're having trouble because all of Crew's players are pushed up high. So what happens? Evander drops deeper. Denkey's checking into space. Santos is dropping deeper. And then somebody like a Nick Hagland takes a bad first touch on a ball out to the right and panics and hits it long. And guess what? There's no FC Cincinnati players up the pitch to challenge for the header. How many long balls did we see the Crew defenders not even have to head away, but actually like bring down on their chest or something and control the ball and then just go again, over and over again, right? And the reason why it looked better in the first half than in the second is because those transition opportunities, FC Cincinnati were able to get out. Like if you have a chance, go back and look at a transition opportunity that happened in the 8th minute. What happened was they knocked the ball and they literally were like in, out, around. There was a cross that was cut out by Orishano, actually, talking about defensively. He headed it towards Santos. Santos did a behind the leg flick to Buka. Buka passed it to Evander. Evander bumped it back underneath, playing the way he's facing to Obi. Obi passed it up to Engel on the left. And that's the one where Engel hit a long diagonal to Kevin Denkey, and Santos was over there with him on the right. And Santos fed Kevin Denkey in, who couldn't get the shot off, and he ended up earning a corner. But you see the fluidity of that. And it's not like things changed in the second half. It's just that was not there. Every time Cincinnati tried to get out in transition, they were turning the ball over. You know, I have a whole list of examples, but I'm not going to go through them all. I'm just going to give two. In the 78th minute, FC Cincinnati had a little bit of possession for once in that half. And the announcer actually said, wow, really welcome respite here to stem the one-way traffic. And on cue, Engel tries to fit a ball into a window that's not there and passes it right to Mo Farsi. And when you turn the ball over to a defender who's facing goal the way he wants to go, that guy's just going to take off with the ball. And your team is up the pitch because they finally have the ball. That led to Gazdag having a chance from the 6-yard box that he blew, that he absolutely should have scored on. In the 86th minute, Kai, that is the one, the ball out on the Kai, and he brought it down on his chest. Kai Kamara did a really well to hold it up and found Buka. Buka passed it to Evander in the middle, and Engel got on his bike and was running up the left, and he is in on goal if Evander plays him up the left. But Evander does the Lucho Acosta thing and tries to beat the defender, and he turns it over. And again, it's not a good turnover. It's not a turnover where the defender is having to chase the ball. Literally, the defender has the ball on his foot, dribbling back at Roman Celentano. And those kind of turnovers, when your entire system is built on let's figure this thing out together, it's like, you know what? Your team is all figuring it out, running forward while you're turning the ball over and Columbus is going back the other way. That's never going to work.
Is it so? There was a comment earlier in the show, and I lost track of it now. Is it a conditioning thing? Is it a fatigue thing? That not that they can't go a full 90, but when you get tired, sometimes you start making poor decisions. Does that have anything to do with it at this level? Because it's something consistent that we're seeing, or is it just a lack of focus in the second half?
I think those two things go hand in hand, but I don't think it's a lack of conditioning. Like you need to run more and be fitter. I think what's happening is when you defend for that long, it's harder work. You know, Crew is not having to chase balls into the corner all the time, into their defensive corner, because they're holding possession. When Nick Haglund launches a ball to, you know, Sean Zawadzki to bring down on his chest and dribble back forward, that midfield is having to sprint out to get pressure to Zawadzki, while Zawadzki's dribbling up, looking, who can I ping this ball to next? You know, they're resting while they have the ball, and FC Cincinnati's sprinting around. So I definitely think they look gassed at the end of the game, but I don't think it's fitness in that they just need to run more. I think it's fitness in that you can't keep turning the ball over and expect to not get tired.
Yeah. No, I hear you there. We have a comment in the chat here from Rupesh. I think it's the same. I think he asked it a couple times here. If you go to a 4-back, no, let me throw this one up here. If you go to a 4-back, Yedlin at right wing back and Luka to a right side at 8, is that a move that you would make?
No, I would put Luka as a right-sided winger. I think that he plays best on the right side because we talked about how one-footed he is. And I would say if they give him the path to the outside on his weaker foot, all he's got to do is turn that corner with speed, and he's going to be looking at the field. And even if he has to make a right-footed pass, he can pass the ball in there. Whereas if he plays on the left, then sure, they're going to give him his left. All he's doing is whipping in hopeful crosses, and crosses are low percentage opportunities. So we want him coming in on his left where he has the ability to pass or shoot. But I think as a winger, it just simplifies the game for him. Right now, he is either playing in the midfield, receiving the ball back to goal, trying to pivot out of pressure and trying to pick up where his attackers are and see the field and process all that information. Or he's playing as a wing back, picking the ball up in his defensive third, having to beat a defender and then dribble and then try to make decisions like, I'm in this open field, dribbling with speed. What am I going to do? If you play him as a winger and he starts receiving the ball more often with just the outside back looking at the whites of his eyes, I would favor that matchup, and I bet he'd have some success.
Yeah. Justin had a question in our rundown. We've talked a little bit about it here. Coach, I just wondered if you had any other additional thoughts on breaking out of the midfield press that's continued to haunt us. Like, I know that's what we're talking about here. We're putting a name to it. How does Cincinnati get past that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I think that the two things that I always did as a coach, and I get it's a different level, me coaching a tiny little college team compared to professionals. But if you get guys playing the way they're facing, and you get players to understand every time the ball moves, you have to move, no matter where you are on the pitch. Make a pass, make a run. If you watch Columbus, that's what they do. It's not some like mind-blowing game plan that Wilfred Nancy is a technical genius. I mean, he's a great coach, but because he's gotten his players to buy in, I think Nancy's the best coach in MLS, so this is no shade on him. It's just he's gotten his players to buy in. Whenever the ball moves, you're just going to see one guy make a run, then somebody fill into the space he left, then somebody fill into the space that he left, and they just cycle like that all the time. Right now, FC Cincinnati passes the ball to Evander and then decides, is he going to turn? Is he going to play it back underneath to Buka or Obi? And then I'm waiting to react until the next pass happens, right? If we know Evander most of the time, unless he is on the half turn, so unless he's already receiving turning, if we know he's going to play the way he's facing, then the ball goes into Evander and Obi is busting his butt. Buka's busting his butt to get open underneath him. Angle's dropping in underneath him, right? And then you start to see, as he's playing to Obi, Angle knows he can already get up the field, like that example that I illustrated from the 8th minute, right? Angle got the chance to get out and running because Evander just played a one-touch pass underneath the Obi, so and Angle didn't have to think about it. It's just the ball went into Vander and he took off. So just simplify it. But again, and this is not the wrong tactic as a coach, but just letting your players work it out. And as opposed to telling them, this is what I want you to do. That's what you want. You want your players to solve problems. I just wonder in MLS if you can't really do that because you don't have your team together long enough to build that kind of cohesion.
Yeah, we got a couple comments in the chat that we threw up here. If we were consistently making runs, so much space would open up. We saw that earlier in the match, right? We saw guys making runs, running off of each other. The ball, Obi, you mentioned, played up the line to Lucas Angle, was beautiful. We've got guys making runs late in the games. We don't see that. It all plays into what we're saying. Clifford Adams says time is the answer. They need more time to work together, which you just talked about. And here's the thing. We have a lot of games stacked up here in the month of May, like we saw early in the season, but we get quite a break come June. So get some guys rested moving forward. But ultimately, guys, look, we're talking about like we lost this match, right? This was the biggest rivalry in Major League Soccer, and we played on the road, and we came home with a point still. So as much as we talk about what's happening or not happening on the field, it's still something to celebrate when we come home from Columbus with a point in our back pocket. Am I right, Justin, or am I wrong?
No, complaining about a win means you've arrived. I'm going to stick by that. We as Cincinnati fans are so spoiled with all our athletics and their success that we can complain about winning and being second in the league.
I could argue that maybe all our success in Cincinnati. You haven't lived in Cincinnati all your life, Justin. There's not, recent years, maybe.
There was a bit of sarcasm there, just a little bit.
I picked up. Well, hey, we've got a lot going on here at Cincinnati Soccer Talk here on the Monday night show. We've got Jersey Swap with Jeff Tebbets every week, giving you previews of the upcoming matches. We've got Soccer in Our Area series on YouTube. We've got writers, we've got photographers that are out doing some fantastic work on behalf of Cincinnati Soccer Talk to give you all the photos and the rundowns and the game previews and the match recaps. If you like to support what we're doing at Cincinnati Soccer Talk, but continuing to make content like this, head over to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. You can join us on Patreon. You can sign up to be a patron, a one-time donation, or you can subscribe for, I think it's $5 a month. We'll get you in the Growler Cup, where you can pick the games and complain about the games like we do over there. We release all of our content on Patreon there. There's a free tier where you'll get to see most of it there as well. So we thank you for your support. And if you're interested in more content like this, we would love to have you over there on Patreon. Guys, let's talk about an upcoming match here as Cincinnati plays Atlanta United. as I looked up, their stats here, their record, Atlanta United has not won a game since March. They're 0-5-3 since April started, which has been a long time. As I think back to that, my spring break was the first week of April. We're almost at the end of the school year. That feels like so long ago. They've scored 4 goals. Atlanta United has scored 4 goals in those 8 matches. They've conceded 13, which maybe bodes well for Cincinnati, but we'll talk about some of those numbers here in a minute, why maybe that's a little deceptive. In that same stretch, Cincinnati is 6-1-1 with 11 goals and 6 goals against. Now, the lineups looked very different the last time we played Atlanta. We had guys away on international duty. We had, second, third string guys playing there. It looks like we may get our full lineup in this match. Justin, what are you seeing? What do you anticipate in this match against Atlanta United?
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to see, 16 players that didn't suit up for the 2 clubs. Oh man, it was something to behold. Vander got a brace though out of that. That was pretty awesome. A 70th minute goal and a 75th minute goal. Yeah, if you look at the live, I was looking it up earlier today. It was hilarious. I had to double check over and over again because I saw Lucas Engel and Alvis Powell playing center back for FC Cincinnati. So I was like, yeah, I remember that because Matt hadn't come back. I'm not sure I think Robinson had a suspension or something like that. Flores definitely had a suspension. He was a red card accumulation or a yellow card. It was a nightmare, but we came away with a point, right? And if it wasn't for an Alvis Powell own goal, I think we would have won that match. Surprisingly.
Oh, that was that match. I forgot about that.
So well, obviously things will be quite a bit different in this match. I don't think Atlanta's kind of in that weird situation. Again, you may have picked this up. Coach is the tactics guy. I'm the vibes guy. Okay, I'm not going to be able to break down a dang thing. But here's an interesting note about Atlanta United. They had that incredible run in the MLS playoffs last year. They go a different direction with the head coach, right? So they fire the coach midseason, qualify for the playoffs, which was miraculous. If you remember, they were 13th in the league or in the East last year, and then they made it to the playoffs. They upset Messi, the MLS's Lord and Savior, and then you go and sack the guy and choose somebody else. And since then, they've been an absolute mess, and they're back at the bottom of the table essentially. So they splurged the money. They brought in the big ownership, the big GM from Seattle, and things have just been a disaster down there. They're bringing in a lot of pieces that don't, a lot of puzzle pieces that don't necessarily match up.
Yeah, Coach, we were talking XG earlier in the before the show, pre-show, right? I mentioned the number, the goals. That's why I wanted to get at this: the goals that they've given up versus the goals that they scored, and how that might be a deceptive number, especially with a team like Cincinnati, where our numbers may be slightly deceptive. Can you talk a little bit about XG, maybe going into this match, the expected and the actual?
Yeah, so just a really quick rundown is XG, or expected goals, is just basically an algorithm that says for every shot that is taken, what is the expected chance that'll go in the goal. So to give you a frame of reference, a PK is 0.79 XG, meaning 79% of PKs are made, right, across soccer, professional soccer. I'm sure there's a tier cutoff there. Non-penalty expected goals is a little bit better of an indicator because it talks about the XG that you create, outside of those penalty situations, which are high value. And basically, without getting too deep into it, Atlanta United is creating more non-penalty XG relative to the opponents they're playing than FC Cincinnati, and giving up less non-penalty XG relative to their opponents than FC is. So if you just rank these teams by non-penalty XG, what is expected that they would give up based on their level of competition, Atlanta would be 8th in the East, and FC Cincinnati would be 11th, which shows FC Cincinnati, and we kind of know this intuitively, right? That FC Cincinnati hasn't been playing that well, but has been getting results. And maybe Atlanta, I mean, 8th is not world beaters, right? They're not playing that well either, but they might have had a little bit worse luck than FC Cincinnati. Now, it's not a perfect statistic because game states change things. You generally give up more XG or non-penalty XG when you're winning because you sit back a little more, right? So the fact that Atlanta's been losing so often probably has something to do with that as well. So it's an imperfect metric, but it is one of those things that makes me worry that if one bounce goes your way, if you're Atlanta, you end up with a draw instead of a win. We saw that at TQL Stadium with Powell's own goal, right? If one thing doesn't go your way offensively when you're FC Cincinnati, you lose. We saw that this time with that Evander bike pass that was a shot. You know, if he hits that a little bit harder and goes over Denkey, then FC Cincinnati probably doesn't win or draw that, you know, because they didn't really create much else. So a lot of it's luck, but Atlanta, anytime a team has that many high-priced players, like it gives me a little worry to just be like, we should go down there and slaughter them, even though MLS on the road, you know, on turf, we should just hammer them. Like, it just makes me worry.
MLS on turf makes me worried just in general. Yeah, over and over and over. I hate seeing that. Yeah, it is ugly.
Especially Atlanta's is I mean, they're all bad, but Atlanta's like, it hurts my eyes.
It's so hard to watch.
And then you get the train horn nonstop, like if they're scoring goals, of course, right? But the train horn, if you guys watch the broadcast, they're not going to do it if FC Cincinnati scores goals, I think. I could be wrong about that, but if Atlanta were to part the clouds and deliver a goal from the soccer gods, turn your volume all the way up, and you'll just hear a blaring train horn every time that they celebrate. It is a weird, interesting building that I can't wait for the World Cup to come to. Let me kind of just finish out this Atlanta preview though. A good friend of ours, Tommy is going to be from Scarves and Spikes. It's going to be on with Jeff Tebbets this week. That's Talking Tactics you're definitely going to want to listen to. Tommy is a wonderful character. Let's just put it at that. And he definitely has his pulse on Atlanta United.
Yeah, and that's Jersey Swap. I think you may have said Talking Tactics.
I did, didn't I? I was looking right at the rundown with the Talking Tactics, and I was saying.
Just wanted to make that clear, unless Jeff is changing things up and bringing back Talking Tactics on his own.
It's Jeff's show. He can do whatever he wants with that.
Well, guys, you mentioned Miami in there a little bit. Maybe you just mentioned Messi as the savior of the league. It is fun to see Miami sliding. Like, I think they've won one game in their last 5. They've lost 3, drew 1. I don't know what's happening in Miami, but as a Cincinnati fan, I'm enjoying whatever it is down there in Miami. So we'll see what happens when they come to town later this season. I want to transition a little bit and talk about the U.S. men's national team roster going into the Gold Cup. We don't have to spend a lot of time here, but some familiar names we saw on that 60-man roster going into the summer tournament. Miles Robinson being one of those. Former FC Cincinnati player Brandon Vasquez is back in the squad. I enjoy seeing his name on that roster. What are you seeing? What do you think the chances are that the United States, and we'll talk about some guys that aren't on that roster, has any shot going into the Gold Cup this summer with a new coach that's trying to get his feet under him, with some players again that are missing that have been kind of staples with that team?
I mean, let's be real here, guys. We should not struggle in the Gold Cup. I don't know. Like, I'm not a USMNT purist.
Says our vibes guy. We should.
I am. Yeah. I mean, come on. Like, I'm not going to go on like a Taylor Twellman argument here, but like, you get past Panama, you get past Jamaica. You have a Canadian team that seems to be going the opposite direction right now. And Mexico's getting better, sure. But like, there's no reason for us to not have a semifinal performance. So I'm not worried at all about it. I just think that we're running out of competitions for the World Cup. So
yeah, Coach, can we do it without Weston McKennie and Gio Reyna and Tim Weah? Like, we're missing some pretty key guys that have been on the field. Do we have a better chance with or without them?
Well, as the tactics guy that actually pays attention to what's going on instead of just working on vibes, I will say that Justin is 100% and completely right. 100%. This can be just vibes. It's CONCACAF. It's Gold Cup. And I'm not saying that it should just be easy. They shouldn't put it in neutral and cruise. That's what's been getting them in trouble, is putting in neutral and cruise.
Mhm.
But Mauricio Pochettino is known as a guy who likes his teams to fight. If you've ever heard interviews about him or of him, he's always talking about this Gunter, or however you say it. It's all about fight. It's all about grit and determination. And US have just not looked like that under him yet. So I don't know if that means having a guy like a Sebastian Berhalter or something, like young guys wanting to prove themselves out there, or a guy like Brandon Vasquez sitting behind you as a striker who is going to come in and work. I don't know if it's that. I don't know if it's just getting in some of these stars' ears and talking to them and how they have to play harder. But the talent is there to where the thing I disagree with, Justin, is I am worried. I'm worried that they will not show up, because I've just seen it too many times now in a row, even under Mauricio, that they haven't shown up. But yeah, like I just want somebody out there that is going to be willing to, Clint Dempsey, things don't go your way, grab the ref's book and tear up the yellow card and throw it on the ground and walk out of the stadium. Like, I want some of that.
Yeah, I think I'm the dog that has never learned he has the shock collar on, right? I keep expecting it to just rain down from the heavens. 2006, 2010, 2014, just all out, put your body on the line, go for it all. But instead we're still doing like Boy Scouts kumbaya stuff.
We are. I'm excited to see some guys on the roster. I'm curious who like stands out to you that you're excited to see how they perform. For me, it's Diego Luna. I've been impressed with the performances he's been putting in. The guy's got a keen eye for the ball, for making great passes, for scoring goals. He's a little guy, but I'm excited. We've seen a guy like Lucho Acosta, a little guy that can go out and do big things. And so I'm excited to see what Diego Luna brings to this team as he gets more of a chance. I know he's come in late in games as a sub. I'm excited to see what he can bring to the team. What about you guys? Who are you excited to see?
I'm excited to see Jordi Mihailovic. I kind of soapboxed him to be at least in conversations to make it to the World Cup squad, to at least play in the Copa America. But obviously that wasn't going to happen. It just our midfield is so, and maybe Weston not being there this time and not having Gio in the midfield for whatever reason. And I could go on and on about our midfield, but our midfield is terrible in the USMNT. And I think Mihailovic is one of those guys that if you can have a dual 10 type scenario with him and another player, he is one of the better crossers on the pitch. He's one of the guys that can pick out a guy on a run and hit him on a dime. And so he may have not done it. He may have not shown it with the USMNT, but I think if you tune into Colorado Rapids games, or even his time at CF Montreal, he's one of the best ball visionaries, quarterbacks, if you will, of the field.
I am not a fan and never have been of Jordi Mihailovic. I hope he plays well. I hope he does good things. I'm not personally a fan of his. And so I don't know what Rupesh's comment was in relation to,
Probably
but
that.
I saved it for this moment when he says, "You're insane, Justin Blair." So Rupesh, 100% agree. Coach, who are you excited to see out there?
I think with players like Georgie, the hardest thing is when you translate to the international stage and everything gets a little bit faster. Like, do these guys have the athletic profile? Like, I totally agree. But like, same with some of the other players that US have tried to roll out there, players that can see the field really well and play, unless they have that 1/4 of a second less time, then all of a sudden they're swarmed all the time.
Sure.
So I worry about that. Gianluca Buzio is another guy that I'm not the same sort of thing. Like, he's great when he has time and space, which he doesn't have with the US. I'm excited to see Alex Freeman if he makes the team. This is a preliminary roster, so we don't even know. if these guys will be out there. But right back is a black hole behind Serginho Dest. They roll out, Joe Scally out there, who is like maybe more like a center back. He's the DeAndre Yedlin of the U.S. men's national team, right? And you know how I love DeAndre out there. So, a guy like Alex Freeman, been fantastic for Orlando, has the physical profile, really athletic, but also really clean and smooth on the ball. And I think big things are ahead for him.
Yeah. I know we're dropping some comments. Rupesh mentioned that Gio is playing with Dortmund in the Club World Cup, and so McKinney and Weah, I believe, also going to be doing that. But isn't that what Weah does for the club? Right, play right back, right wing back
for his club team. Sometimes, he doesn't play there. I don't think every match, day in and day out, but he's definitely seen some time there. Yep.
So why not play him there instead of the 50,000 wingers that we have on this team? That all right, I could go on this rant forever, and maybe we should just put Florian Balogun back there. It was just like he might be more effective as a right back than he is as a striker. I could rant, dude. I'm not one of those like USMNT bros, but like I am just like I'm over it, man. I'm so sick and tired of this team. Just the apathetic attitude for every result, the overhyping of these European like wonder kids that play in like the Dutch like second league, that are playing on like the 8th on the table in the French league, and like they're the best team ever, the best player we've ever had in the USMNT, and they come in and they scored like 4 goals in 20 matches. Brandon Vasquez, you look it up. I think Vasquez has more goals than Florian Balogun.
The vibes have turned sour.
There's no more
Lord and Savior of
no more vibes.
The USMNT. No, this is the vibes, man. I'm sick of it. You bring up USMNT, I will rant, man.
Justin says I could rant, and then he just went on and ranted.
I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, you did.
I got more.
I'm sure you do.
Join Patreon. We can do a little bit more conversation about this later this week.
That would be a great idea.
Stream. We'll just burn it up.
That would be a fun idea.
Rupesh, join. You can tell me how much I'm wrong.
We're running out of time here on the show. I do want to get our final thoughts because I think we've got some fun things to talk about just to wrap up the show. I know I've looked at some stats and have some things that I'm excited to share. Coach, I want to pass it to you to start us off with your final thought here as we wrap up the program.
Yeah, I asked the question for people that are worried, and the constant talk that we have, at least in our Slack chat for CST, about 1 goal lead, they're not sustainable, and this team's playing so bad. And if at the end of April, they're still not, and if at the end of May, they're still not, and everything is so crunchy all the time. And I say there's 2 ways you can look at this. And the first question I would ask is, would you rather be playing near your floor, like just about as bad as you can play with the talent you have, and be sitting at 2nd in the East? Or would you rather be playing near your ceiling? Like you look at your players and you think like, wow, we lost a big star whose name rhymes with Smucho Schmernandez, and, but we're still 3rd in the East. Which of those would you rather? And I would say FC Cincinnati, if you can certainly be like, man, the bottom is going to drop out any moment now. We're 2nd in the East, FC Cincinnati is, and not playing all that well. And you could also say, wow, this team has nothing but potential to get better, and they are 2nd at the East. Now rewind to the Supporter Shield winning season and think how much you would have loved to be sitting in May and be thinking, the end of May, and be thinking, man, this team has a lot of improvement to go. They haven't hit their stride yet, as opposed to, wow, this team has been soaring and is now starting to taper off. What's going on here, right? I think FC Cincinnati can go up and up and up, and I am excited for that to happen. Now, maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe, we'll crash and burn in the first round of the playoffs, and it'll just be bad from here. Maybe the bottom will fall out, but I am going to choose to be an optimist right now.
I'm going to jump in with my final thought before you, Justin, because I want to counter that just a little bit, because I looked into some stats here, right? And I'll put them up on the screen just for those who are watching live here. If you look at Cincinnati sitting at 2nd in the East, they're tied in points with Philadelphia. Philadelphia has the game on us early in the season. But if you look at the stat of goal differential, We're sitting in second place with a +4 goal differential. With Philadelphia at a +13, Vancouver below us in third. This is the Supporter Shield standings with a +14 goal differential, +8, +9, +9. There are 9 teams ahead of Cincinnati in goal differential, including San Jose, who's sitting in 17th on the table with a +6 goal differential. So that does concern me a little bit. I want to compare it to this other chart that I'll throw up here on the screen. Going back, this is a deep dive into the past. 2011, 2012, Newcastle United in the Premier League finished 5th in the table. They weren't expected to do anything. I will share a YouTube link in our chat here if you're interested in knowing where this comes from. But 2011, 2012, they finished 5th on the table with a +5 goal differential. And if you can see the chart, everyone above them is at +25 or more. And the 4 or the 3 below them are at +19, +10, +7 at the end of the season. The next year, they tanked. They finished 16th, just above the relegation line in the Premier League. A lot of it fell to luck, to one player scoring a lot of goals. We don't need to go into that study, but I just wanted to share that goal differential stat concerns me a little bit. I know Jose has been on his soapbox talking about, are these 1-goal wins sustainable? Yes, maybe for a season things will turn over in the MLS, but I'd like to see Cincinnati get out a little bit more in front of this goal differential to hold their spot, to solidify that they are a team to be reckoned with, not a team that gets lucky to score that extra goal moving forward. So not to totally take away your optimism, Coach, but that's where I'm living right now in this land of, can we finish a match with more than a draw or 1-goal win? And I hope to see it maybe this week in Atlanta. That's my final thought. Justin, I'll pass it to you to close us out.
I like to reclaim my time and talk about the USMNT. No, I actually wanted to mention, when you brought up that graphic, I was wondering what Coach was thinking about when he saw Tottenham in 4th place with the EPL standings.
I was thinking, glory days.
No, one thing that came to mind, I guess a few days ago, right? For the Cincinnati made its claim to fame. FC Cincinnati did, by just being this unbelievable club with this amazing support, right? I know during the off season we were pushing for a US or a NWSL team, a women's team, a professional women's soccer here in Cincinnati. Why can't FC Cincinnati, why can't the community, the fan base and stuff like that start something organic like we did with the US? I mean, USL wasn't the prettiest car on the block, right? In US, our fans sold out. This, was able to get 40,000 people to go to a USL match, right? So nothing that MLS fans would even. Why can't our group and our community, our soccer culture, we all want it. We all want to pay the money. We would want to get the season tickets for it. Everybody wants a higher level professional women's soccer team here in the city. Why can't we just throw all the chips in the table one night and just pick one to show up in? We can show up in our Cincinnati gear, just show up, just completely invade another match. Do what we got to do to get our message out there. We did such a great job at getting us into the MLS. We put pressure on the MLS to make us come into the league, right? So I want to remind people that are disappointed with the NWSL. Fans ultimately control everything. We talk about the dollar signs, the Messis, the everything in the world. The fans ultimately control how the sports entertainment business works. And I think that it's time for us as Cincinnati soccer fans to step up for professional women's soccer. There are several teams within the city that we can go watch matches, sure, get behind, but there are several opportunities to make national TV and really still headlines. So that's my final thought. May not be everyone's favorite final thought, but I'm putting my chips in the table.
Our vibes guy ends it with that. So let's get out there, Cincinnati, support some women's soccer. Let's get out there. Fans control everything, including the number of goals Cincinnati scores in their next match against Atlanta. That's what I heard from that rant. Thank you, Justin, for being on the program tonight. Coach, thanks for being on tonight. Thanks for sticking with us. We ran a little bit long tonight, and we appreciate you being with us here at Cincinnati Soccer Talk, and we'll talk to you next week.